Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello on the programme this evening.
It's okay. We're with you. Come on, we're with you.
The police officer convinced he was going to die after being attacked while on duty.
I just remember just trying to stay awake and just thinking about, am I going to make it? Am I going to be able to see my daughter again? Am I going to be able to see my family and my wife again?
One of the men tasked with investigating the Summerland fire calls the initial inquest conclusions strange.
A gold rush in Hyde as Team GB show off their cycling haul from Paris.
Happy birthday, dear Kathleen. 105 years young, we meet the great-grandma and find out her secrets to a long life.
And we have a little blip in the weather tomorrow before we see more skies like this into this weekend. I'll have the forecast later on.
Well, first tonight, I'm going to die. The words of a police officer knocked unconscious as he grappled with a drunken man while on duty in Blackpool.
PC Ashley Aspinall was just doing his job, but he was left with bruising on the brain and was off work for 4 months following the incident last year. He said all he could think of as he lay bleeding was his baby daughter.
Lancashire's chief constable says assaults on emergency workers are increasing and something has to change. Sasha Hackett says, "I don't want the families of my officers wondering if their loved one is going to come home."
Well, a warning now that Andrew Fletcher's report begins with footage that you may find distressing.
Ash, are you all right?
It's all right, brother. Keep squeezing my hand. You're going to be OK.
Ash?
Yeah. Keep squeezing, Ash. Keep squeezing.
12:30 on a Friday night in the centre of Blackpool. PC Ashley Aspinall lies on the pavement, wondering whether this shift will be his last.
Felt like I was lying in a puddle and just looking around thinking, I just don't remember it raining. And it was only from literally touching the back of my head and realising, I can just feel from the tip of my finger to the palm of my hand, just covered in blood, and just everything was just starting to go black, and I went unconscious.
Get involved now! Get involved now! Get up!
PC Aspinall had suffered a serious head injury during a scuffle with a man who'd been thrown out of a bar. This body cam footage shows colleagues and paramedics rushing to help him, having to pull his attacker away before they could give him life-saving first aid. Were there moments when you were lying there on the ground where you thought, I'm not going to make it?
Yeah, I would be lying if I didn't say that is correct. And I think I would just remember thinking certain things like, who's going to take my daughter to the first day at school? Who's going to take her to prom? Who's going to walk her down the aisle? And it was just little things like that. And and my colleagues at scene just trying to reassure me and keep me calm, and just trying to think of positive and forward things. I generally don't know even if I'd be here today.
Ashley was in hospital for 11 days. He was treated for injuries, including bruising to the brain. It was another 4 months before he was able to return to the job he loves. Out on the beat in Blackpool, and in the past fortnight, helping to police the disorder after the murders of 3 girls in Southport.
It's so upsetting and disappointing to see, given the circumstance and what's happening out there, and it's something, unfortunately, we have to face on a daily basis. But that's why we have to be stronger as a community. That's why we have to be stronger as an organisation, because we can't let these situations and these incidents win.
The man who attacked Ashley, 50-year-old Ian Scott from Bispam, pleaded guilty to wounding an emergency worker. He was given a 24-month suspended sentence and ordered to do community work. Ashley and some of his colleagues are still receiving support to deal with the trauma of the incidents. A lot of people, after what you've gone through, would say no more. But you want to get back on the beat.
Absolutely. I think it's all about resilience. I just wanted to get back to the job I love, because that's why I joined. That's why I worked so hard to join the job and to get into policing and being a police officer, because that's what I want to do and that's what I will continue to do, hopefully for the rest of my career.
Ash, stay with us.
Andrew Fletcher, ITV News in Blackpool.
Well, joining us now is Zeg Awan, the chair of the Lancashire Police Federation. Zeg, thank you for joining us today. Just firstly, what is your reaction to PC Aspinall's story?
Well, good evening, Gamal. Firstly, I'd like to wish Ashley a speedy recovery. As you know, the physical scars from an assault can heal very quickly, but you might not be aware that the emotional scars take a lot longer, and we wish him the best in that recovery. Secondly, I'd like to add my disappointment, along with the Chief Constable, to the sentence that was passed in this case. It's really disappointing to see that the offender only received 24 months of a suspended sentence. This week I've been inundated by my colleagues up and down the country contacting me and showing their outrage at that sentencing. They feel that, you know, what level of assault will result in a custodial sentence for a person. Yeah. And we run the real risk of losing the confidence of police officers in the judicial system.
Zeg,
so I think it's really incumbent upon them to appropriately sentence.
Zeg, just tell us what it's like being a frontline officer. What goes through a police officer's mind when they leave their house?
Well, it will be different for everybody. One of the fears that you always have, and you know, nobody should be leaving to work thinking that they're going to be assaulted. But unfortunately, we know the realities of that are very different. And for police officers, it is a real and present danger. Every time they put on the uniform, every time they go out on patrol, there is always a risk that they will be assaulted. You know, in terms of the roles that police officers perform, right away from in our communities and neighbourhoods, in response teams dealing with incidents, you know, the traffic officers, investigators and all the rest of it, and I'm probably going to upset a few by not mentioning them, but all those roles are crucial within society and they help keep people safe. And yet it is my members who are the ones that are being assaulted for doing that role.
And Lancashire's Chief Constable says assaults on emergency service workers are increasing. Something does need to change. What do you think needs to be done? I mean, are we talking about tougher sentencing here?
Well, by the time we get into tougher sentencing, we are really acting as a deterrent, and really the situation needs to be dealt with far before then. If we're looking at education, perhaps we're even looking at, you know, families in terms of the values that we're passing on to young people as they grow up, in terms of respect for authority in particular. You know, 30 or 40 years ago, assaulting a police officer was quite a taboo subject. Now it seems it's become almost normal, and we know in society there are people who even wear this as a badge of honour, that they have assaulted police officers, which, you know, is completely outrageous and should never be accepted.
OK. Zeg Awan, Chair of the Lancashire Police Federation, thank you very much for your time.
Now, the last surviving member of the Summerland Fire Research Team says the misadventure ruling given to those who died in 1973 is a strange verdict.
Yes, John Webb was one of the team who went into the leisure complex just days after the fire to find the cause of the blaze.
He was critical of the building materials used at the time and questions how much training was given to staff. But he wouldn't describe the fire, he says, as an injustice.
He's been speaking to our Isle of Man reporter, Joshua Stokes.
In the days that followed the Summerland fire, the attention turned to the investigation, and that meant calling on specialist help from the UK. John is the last surviving member of the Fire Research Team, a group of experts who went into the building to assess the damage.
Basically, it was us following the trail of the fire and sort of why it had spread so rapidly once it was in.
But it was a task that would prove harder than expected. While photographing what remained of the building, the team discovered that a key piece of evidence was missing.
There were no detailed drawings of exactly how it was constructed because it had been changed at the last minute.
The outer wall material had been changed from concrete to a metal cladding called galbestos, a material that was used to save money but was also highly flammable.
I think it surprised all of us, and particularly the Chief Fire Officer. It was at that point we found out from him that that particular major alteration had not been referred back to him or the fire service.
There's absolute pandemonium here. The Summerland is ablaze and blazing down. The fire is spreading very rapidly indeed.
The factors that led to the tragedy were vast.
The key things that went wrong, the lack of escape routes, just one, and there should have been more. The lack of training of staff. If they'd sounded the alarm when the fire was first spotted and cleared the building out, the fire brigade would have been called automatically.
Would you describe that building as a safe building?
If it had been run better, I think if the staff had been better trained, it was a reasonably safe building.
A commission into the fire was published just 6 months after the disaster. It included findings from John's team, yet the conclusions led to little accountability.
I was slightly puzzled by them. They said there were no villains, and to some degree they were right. I think it was ignorance rather than villainy. It wasn't deliberate.
Despite the findings, a verdict of misadventure was given to those who died, something campaigners are fighting to change.
I understand that the survivors and families of survivors feel the misadventure verdict is in some ways condemning their families and friends who died because they went into a building that turned out wasn't apparently safe. If that's what the coroner meant, I must admit, a very strange verdict. And in fact, looking back at it, I can only be astonished that only 50 people died.
Would you describe it as an injustice?
No. We're all looking back with hindsight. We're looking back with a much greater knowledge of what building materials do. I think a lack of consultation in the design of the building and a lack of training when the building was in use, I would put down as the two main factors. To what degree you can call that an injustice, I don't know. I would not advance any opinion on that.
On to more of the day's news now, and a 53-year-old woman has been jailed for 15 months at Chester Crown Court for posting a hateful message on Facebook in the wake of the Southport stabbings. Julie Sweeney of Church Lawton pleaded guilty to sending communications threatening death or serious harm after she posted an online message saying, "Blow the mosque up with adults in it."
A charity's been set up in memory of a Hillsborough Justice campaigner from Liverpool. The Dan Kay Foundation will tackle stigmas around mental health in memory of the 45-year-old journalist who died suddenly last year. It's been set up by the Liverpool Echo, where Dan worked as a sports writer for many years.
Final preparations are underway for the 100th Southport Flower Show. The event at Victoria Park attracts thousands of visitors every year and runs from tomorrow until Sunday. Display gardens reflecting the special occasion will be a major part of the show. Now, last night we brought you the powerful stories of Sam and Andrea, who share their own personal experiences with suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, they both said that they contemplated taking their own lives, but through reaching out for help, they found the support that they needed.
You believe that you've got two choices: to carry on living the life you're currently living or to end it. And actually what we need to let people know is there are more than those choices.
What helped me was talking to people, understanding that I'm not alone, I'm not the only one. Because I think when you are in a dark place, you think there's no way out. You can't see any way out. And by talking to other people, by living their experiences with them, you can be inspired by them.
Well, they were speaking to us ahead of Greater Manchester's Month of Hope campaign aimed at removing the stigma around suicide, which kills more than 5,000 people every year.
Yeah, it was an extremely powerful interview with Andrea and Sam. 1 in 5 of us will experience suicidal thoughts. I spoke to the chair of Manchester Suicide Prevention, and I started by asking him what he thought about how important it is that people speak out when they need help.
it's so important people get the opportunity to hear that even in the darkest times, people have found that glimmer of light, and how they found that and what worked for them. Just to give that bit of hope and understanding about what support's out there and how people can start to rebuild their lives. And people were really clear about not trying to dress this up, that life can be really, really difficult for lots and lots of people, but that there is hope out there. There are places people can go to for support. I know Sam talked about Andy's Man Club as a place he went to, and Andrea talked about her dog and how helpful that was for her and how it gave her a purpose and hopefully gives people that sense of a better future.
Well, you say that's why it's so important, isn't it, to give people hope. Do you think, though, that as a society in general we talk about suicide enough? Is there still a stigma attached to it?
There is still a stigma. I mean, if we think back 20 years ago, the way we talked about mental health, and we can see how that's changed in 20 years, much for the better. You know, we talk much more openly about our mental health and what we all need to do to have good mental health. And we need to get to a place with suicide where we're using language which isn't judgmental and doesn't make people feel judged, and supports positive conversations and constructive conversations. I mean, a lot of the language has sort of crept into how we talk about suicide. People still use the term committing suicide, and it's not been a crime since 1961, but it gives people a sense of judgment. Terms like, you're not going to do something silly, are you? You know, these sort of terms that you know, people use without bad intent, but can just make people feel, oh, well, I better say no then, and I better not open up to that person. And we know that talking about suicide and asking someone if they've had suicidal thoughts doesn't put the idea in people's heads. It's really important we speak to people when we develop any campaign, whatever it's about, who've had this lived experience, to say, what would have helped you then and what would help you now, and what can we do to change some of the dialogue around suicide?
Well, what would be your advice to people who may be watching this and who are worried about a friend or a loved one?
Yeah.
How should they approach it? Because it is a difficult conversation to start.
It is. And I think, you know, one of the things we've tried to really promote is a 20-minute training. It's free. It's on our Shining a Light on Suicide website, and there's a button called Learn to Save a Life. If you click on that, there's a 20-minute training produced by the Zero Suicide Alliance.
So there is help.
There is.
And there is hope as well.
Absolutely.
Judd, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, well, if you are struggling, there is lots of information about resources on our website where you can find help and support. That's all at itv.com/Granada.
OK, time for sport now. And stars from Team GB have been celebrating their success back home in the northwest. Hi, David.
Yeah, hi. Not one, not two, but three Olympic medalists from Paris have been out and about in our region today. Well, Manchester is, of course, the home of British cycling, and over the years, the velodrome has become a real medal factory for Team GB. It certainly was once again in the French capital, with 8 medals won on the track. And today, Olympic fans here at home got a special glimpse of the golds.
Thank you so much.
Excitement on an Olympic scale.
This is brilliant, thank you. It's okay.
Young and old met sports stars in Greater Manchester today, getting up close to the medalists and their medals.
Oh, did you think you dropped it then?
For these Team GB track cycling stars, it's a chance to share their success after returning home from Paris.
Everyone, like when I met all my family and everything, just want to hold it and touch it and like have pictures with it.
I want to
really
hold
nice.
it and touch it, like,
yeah,
is
like,
this real?
So precious. But yeah, it's just, I can't put it into words, it's a dream come true.
Among those getting a chance to hold an Olympic gold were brothers Carter and Cole. What was that like?
Very nice.
What was it like holding the medal?
It was very heavy.
Do you guys like cycling?
Yeah. Not me.
Not you? Why not?
He always crashes.
We love it. We watch all of it on TV, honestly. When they're going around that track, I can't believe how fast they go. It's brilliant.
And you got to hold a gold medal as well. You've been part of that experience.
A gold medal in my hand. That's the only one I'm going to get, man. But yeah.
Hey, come on, LA, 4 years' time.
Oh, well, not be here in 4 years' time.
Well, there was quite the buzz at the Manchester Bike Kitchens Community Hub in Hyde as Olympic gold medalists Katie Marchant and Sophie Capewell, along with bronze medal winning Josie Knight and BMX racer Beth Shriver, turned up to help.
Now, she got on the ball. No. Yeah, well, you know, there's no rest here. If you come in here, you're working. Yeah, so we have a number of schemes that are open to the community. One's called Tea and Tinker, and that's for slightly older people. To get them out of the house, you can come in, have a cup of tea, have a drink and have a tinker with the bank if you wish, or just come and talk rubbish to us, we don't mind. And we've now got people coming in who come and volunteer regularly, and then going out and doing rides, so all adds obviously to improves the physical and the mental health as well.
The visit is all part of the Changemaker Week, an initiative run by UK Sport, Team GB, Paralympics GB and the National Lottery, allowing our Olympians to give back to their local communities.
It's an amazing platform to be able to get up there and, to challenge to win Olympic gold medals, but fundamentally we just ride bikes in circles, and I think that if we can share that and give back to the people and inspire people to do the same, it's so good for mental health, it's so good for physical health, and it's so accessible to many people. We're really fortunate that cycling is a really accessible sport, and I would encourage anyone to get over to the Manchester Velodrome and just give it a go. It's super fun, and I think you won't regret it.
With that velodrome, our region is at the very heart of British cycling, and today will only help to grow the love here for our Olympians and their sport. Great to see our Olympians out and about today. Now, new Manchester United signing Matthijs de Ligt says he can't wait to work with Erik ten Hag again. Well, the Dutch international has completed his move to United along with fellow defender Nusayr Mazraoui. The pair have joined from Bayern Munich for £60 million. Both have previously worked under ten Hag during their time at Ajax. Now, there were goals galore in the first round of the EFL Cup, and it was League Two's Fleetwood Town who caused the biggest upset. The Cod Army knocked out Championship side West Brom thanks to a 2-1 win. Elsewhere, Preston beat Sunderland 2-0 with their interim manager Mike Marsh in charge. Blackburn put 6 past Stockport as they won 6-1 at Edgeley Park. Bolton needed spot kicks to see off Mansfield, eventually winning 5-4 on penalties. Blackpool eased into the second round, beating Burton 4-0. Tranmere were also among the goals as they beat Accrington 3-0. How about this for a winner from Barrow as they knocked out Port Vale, winning 3-2. Sadly, though, Wigan, Crewe and Morecambe all went out. Yeah, loads of North West sides through to the round 2.
Exciting times. Thank you very much indeed, David. Right, a little bit of trivia for you next. See if you know this, Kamal. What do pop-up toasters and shortwave radio have in common?
Good question. Well, I've got the answer. Both of them came into existence in 1919, the year after the end of the First World War.
You did not know that before.
No,
you saw it written in that script. Definitely not. Well, it's the exact same year that one of our viewers, the lovely Kathleen Malloy, was born.
Don't reveal trade secrets, OK?
Wait, all right.
This week she celebrates her 105th birthday. Emma Sweeney's been along to find out what her secret is.
These Irish eyes have been smiling for over a century. And this week, as Kathleen Malloy reached 105, many more were smiling too.
Laura Brehan-Sunadich, happy birthday.
Thank you.
105 years old.
Yes.
Tell me, what's your secret?
I suppose most of the time I was happy. Lots of the times I wasn't happy, but it had no effect. I just carried on.
Of all the bits of old Ireland that have been immortalised in song and story, none is more steeped in tradition than this part of County Galway.
Kathleen was born on the west coast of Ireland in 1919. The third of 8 children, she spoke Irish as a first language. But like so many before and after, she ended up leaving her native home and settling here in England.
Her father died, and obviously financially she's one of the older ones of 8, so England seemed to be the only horizon for her, for the situation they were in. So she had to go, and there was no choice in it, really.
But Kathleen did find happiness here. She met her husband, Tommy. He'd also emigrated from the same part of Ireland.
And we were at Mass. And when we came outside, we were talking to the boys who had only just come over.
And you had your eye on Tom?
No. He said, whichever of the girls are from Galway, that's my girl.
And you said, that's me.
That's me.
Happy birthday, dear Kathleen. Kathleen's son and daughter helped to lead this week's celebrations at St Joseph's Care Home in Longside, run by the Little Sisters of the Poor. and told she's a bit of a celeb around these parts.
We're great friends. She loves to see me coming and I love to see her.
I'm amazed. I've never met a person that old before. I'm only 91 myself, but I don't know how. We seem to come here and live forever, you know.
And with grand old age comes pearls of wisdom.
It's a good life with the downfalls. And you have to watch your company.
A word to the wise from a woman who really has seen it all. Emma Sweeney, ITV News, Manchester.
Oh, happy birthday, Kathleen. What a legend. And I bet Tom could not keep his eyes off her.
Yeah, wise words from Kathleen. Many happy returns. Here's Joe with the weather.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. Some nice, bright, fine weather around today. After a chilly night last night, we saw some misty conditions this morning. It's not going to be quite as cool tonight. And during the day tomorrow, rain will be moving in across our part of the world, accompanied by gusty winds, after which more settled weather sets in for this weekend. This is tomorrow's frontal system pushing in from the west, increasing cloud amounts through the morning, bringing a spell of rain to most of us through the afternoon, accompanied by those gusty winds, but clearing through to largely fine conditions for Friday, Saturday and Sunday as well. Back to this evening, a nice end to the day. Winds are light, but they'll pick up just a touch for western fringes as we approach dawn. Cloud building there, but for many places starting clear at least. And temperature-wise, last night dipped down to single figures, but staying comfortably at around 12 or 13 Celsius in rural spots tonight. You'll notice that cloud beginning to build through the night. Rain moving into the Isle of Man and Cumbria before dawn, and some fairly fresh winds picking up for Irish Sea coast before tomorrow. Those are the sun times. Up at 10 to 6, setting at 8:39 tomorrow evening. Quite quickly, skies will cloud over tomorrow morning, winds increase in strength, and the rain that's across the north of the region extends to most places through tomorrow afternoon. 1 or 2 heavy bursts of rain within that band, lots of cloud around, gusty winds, a dreary old end to the day for most of us. But the air is warm, 21 or 22 degrees tomorrow afternoon. So through tomorrow evening, that rain pushes away. Friday will be a decent day, lots of sunshine around and dry, and that's how it's set to stay this weekend. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Just thinking about Kathleen, she's seen so much, right?
I bet she has got some stories to tell. She's another one who should write a book, definitely.
Bye-bye.
Good night.